Five heart principles, lifting us higher, learning without blame, fueling our fire. Together we grow, together we thrive, keeping operational excellence alive.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to talk about a universal human habit. It's a choice we all make dozens of times a day, and honestly, we probably don't even think about it. We're talking about taking shortcuts. I mean, come on, of course you have. We all have, right? It's that little moment where you decide, you know what? Speed is more important than doing this thing perfectly by the book. It's almost like an instinct. Think about this really simple, everyday example. The paved path, that's the correct way to go. But cutting across the grass, it's just faster. It's a tiny little decision to save what? A few seconds, a little bit of effort, and we make choices just like this all the time. Or how about this one? This is a classic. You've got this box full of a million parts and a super thick instruction manual. So, do you read every single word step by step? Or do you just kind of glance at the pictures and start putting things together? Yeah, most of us go with option two. We're just trying to get it done. And this right here, this brings us to a really crucial idea. We often stop working on something not when it's perfect, but when it hits that minimum requirement, when it's, good enough for now. This isn't about being lazy. It's actually a fundamental strategy we use to manage our limited time and energy. So all these little choices we're making, they're not random at all. Turns out they're all governed by this hidden rule, a constant trade-off we're always making between being efficient and being thorough. And that rule, it actually has a name, the Efficiency Thoroughness Trade-off Principle, or ETTO for short. It's just the formal term for that choice we have to make when we just can't do everything perfectly because, well, we're short on time or energy, or maybe we just don't have all the info. And this slide just breaks it down perfectly. On one side, you've got being efficient, getting things done fast, taking those shortcuts, saving time. And on the other side, you've got being thorough, being super careful, checking everything, making sure the quality is top notch. The whole point of the ETTO principle is that you can almost never have both at the same time. You always have to trade a little of one to get more of the other. Okay, so let's take this idea and see how it builds into something much, much bigger. Because this little trade off, it actually explains the huge gap we always see between how work is planned and how it actually gets done. This is really the core difference between what's called work as imagined and work as done. So, work as imagined, that's the nice, clean, official procedure you read in the manual. But work as done, well, that's the messy reality, isn't it? It's filled with all the shortcuts and compromises people have to make just to get the job finished. And that gap between the two exists because of the ETTO principle. This quote just nails it. It's not that people are lazy or they're bad at their jobs, it's that the official plans, the work as imagined, are often just too perfect, too rigid for the real world. So people on the ground are constantly forced to make these trade offs just to adapt and get things done. Okay, so far we've been talking about pretty low stakes stuff, right? Cutting across the grass, building furniture. But what happens when that exact same trade off is made in a place where the stakes are incredibly high? All of a sudden, that simple little choice between being efficient and being thorough, well, it's not so simple anymore. It can literally become a matter of life and death. Just look at these examples. In a nuclear plant, somebody used the wrong equipment just to speed things up. In a hospital, a medical team skipped a procedural step during a chaotic emergency. In aviation, a pilot landed an unstable plane to avoid a really complex maneuver. In every single one of these cases, you have professionals under a ton of pressure sacrificing the thorough official plan for a more efficient shortcut. It's the exact same trade-off as cutting across the lawn, just with potentially massive consequences. Let's dig into that aviation one for a second. The official procedure, the work is imagined, is crystal clear. If your approach is unstable, you have to do something called a missed approach and try again. But in reality, the work is done, pilots will often just continue the landing. So why would they do that? Well, because a missed approach is really complex, it's time consuming, and it seriously increases their workload. So they make a trade-off. They choose the more efficient option because in that split second, it feels safe enough. So what's the big takeaway here? What do we do with this? Well, by understanding this ETTO principle, we can start to move from making these trade offs unconsciously, like we always do, to making them consciously and with our eyes open. The goal isn't to somehow eliminate shortcuts, that's just impossible. It's about understanding them. It's about figuring out how to bridge that gap between the perfect, neat plan and the messy reality of how people actually have to adapt to get things done. Because these trade offs, they aren't some bug in the system, they are a fundamental feature of how humans work. And that leaves us with the really big question, doesn't it? Now that we can see this trade off happening everywhere, how do we get better at knowing which shortcuts are the smart, necessary adaptations, and which ones are a step towards a total disaster? The first step is just to see the choice for what it is. To ask yourself, am I choosing efficiency over thoroughness right now? And what are the real stakes if I get this wrong? Just understanding that choice is the first step. Making the right one, well, that's the real challenge.
5 hard principles lifting us higher, learning without blame, fueling our fire. Together we grow, together we thrive, keeping operational excellence alive.